Anyone remember that discussion we had with the Overwatch devs about how, many of us anyway, really want to have role queue in the game even if it comes at the cost of longer queue times? It's already bright outside. I'm pretty sure when we hit that queue, it was still dark. Now it's bright.
The sun has literally come up by the time this queue is gonna pop, dude.
And especially a lot of popular streamers exclaimed live on Twitch that they would rather wait longer for a game than to continue playing in matches that just are not fun.
Elon Musk is gonna get us to Mars by the time this queue pops.
Well, ask and you shall receive. If there's anything that role queue made apparent, it's the fact that queue times can very much get out of hand. And for me personally, you know, the guy behind the microphone, I've grown a little annoyed at some of those complaints. Don't get me wrong, they have a point. More than one in fact, and I'm going to cover why a lot of them are very legitimate, but fact of the matter is that you cannot have the cake and eat it too. Yes, this is a top 1% problem first and foremost, and it makes sense. The higher in rank you get, the less players you're going to find, and as such, you are going to experience longer queue times. You can't be wanting to play the most popular role in the game, be in the highest rank in the game, demand to never see anyone outside of your own SR range, and then also say that you want short queue times. These things just do not go together. You can't have all Grandmaster games as a DPS player in queue times that don't exceed what you find acceptable. Especially because not everyone who plays up in those ranks is a content creator. Primetime exists for a reason, and you're not going to find most of the general populace playing video games outside of it. With that said, there are some interesting problems that can come to light as a result of streamers facing those queue times, and that's what I want to talk about today. Even if it is not a reasonable demand to, well, demand all these things to happen in unison, what is the result of them being confronted with this issue? Smurf accounts. If you thought that smurfing was already a problem, then buckle up, friendo, because it's about to get much more annoying. A few DPS-focused live streamers have already announced that they're going to do more unranked to GM challenges in an attempt to try and dodge queue times on their main account. Now, that creates more than just one problem. If you ever see a content creator who usually plays in Grandmaster and top 500 plays anywhere below Platinum, you can assume with reasonable confidence that they did not level up that account. I, as someone who plays in Masters, never once placed below Platinum, even back when I first started playing the game. To this date, we have to assume that the matchmaker is borrowing quick play data to assess your initial placements, and anyone who's good enough to play in high GM on their main account will never place below Platinum, even if they are not trying very hard while leveling up that account. And even if what I just said is complete nonsense, if you see a top 500 player placing in gold on a fresh account, do you really buy it? Even without me making that suggestion, players will assume that those content creators used somebody else's account. Whether that means they bought the account at level 25 or if they had a buddy level it for them does not matter, because it normalizes the idea that all of these things are okay. If a popular streamer finds it acceptable to stomp their way up from a super low rank back into GM, then players will see no problem with borrowing their friend's account to do the same. They will see no problem with buying fresh level 25 accounts to try and emulate that experience. And that is a problem, even if not one intentionally created by that content creator. Since at the end of the day, they are trying to entertain an audience. As much as we can joke about them yoinking content off of YouTube while farming Prime subs, they are there to entertain. And for many of them, it's really difficult to make for an entertaining stream when you spend more time queuing than actually playing the game. We all know how much of an impact content creators can have on the game. Sure, me covering right about anything is not going to affect your everyday matches, but when a channel as big as your Overwatch goes around praising Sigma Zarya as the go-to composition to counter Bunker, then you are definitely going to see more players attempting to make use of that strategy. And in my community alone, a lot of people really hate that this is the fact. Not because the idea is necessarily wrong, but because players will take this composition and try to play it without understanding how to do it. This is not something I'm making up. As I saw Fredo talk about different compositions on social media, I also saw a bunch of people on Discord talk about how others are throwing their games on those exact comps because they have no idea how to play them. Even if you give somebody an in-depth analysis and tutorial, does not mean they are going to take away much more than, huh, so that's overpowered now. Better go try it. In that same way, a lot of emotions that streamers convey on Twitch are going to be shared by many people in their community. If the creator is openly excited for a new feature, like for example role queue, then chances are that many of the community members will share that excitement. And in that same way again, if they express a lot of, let's say, frustration, then others will too share those feelings. And that can happen even if they are not directly affected by the same problem. A player in gold is not going to have the same kind of queue time like a player in top 500, even when they both play DPS. But I love watching this streamer, and by God, I will be angry in his stead. Naturally, viewers are drawn to content creators whom they can connect with. Somebody who generally has a similar mindset to them, or somebody they share a bunch of opinions with. Remember that really long stretch that I had on YouTube where I kept bringing up the same problems over and over again because of how much they annoyed me? When I took a break away from Overwatch and realized just how negative I was being, I got so much backlash from people who demand that I should be upset and outraged about everything that they currently hate about the game. I shit you not, that actually happened for a good while. And even now that my coverage mostly consists of analysis, discussion, and random topics I find interesting, like finding out how much you can sell an Overwatch account for and researching how Overwatch even still makes money in the first place, I am still getting comments like that to this day. That just comes to show how impactful content creators can be. In essence, any tiny problem can get completely blown out of proportion just because players feel validated in their complaints when a popular content creator agrees with them. So what felt like a huge tangent finally circles back around to the original point. Even if super long queue times are a top 1% problem first and foremost, players will be outraged about it in support of their favorite content creator. And people will feel validated in their complaints about the system even if they don't face the exact same problem. And to me, that is always the most interesting part. As somebody who's very invested in our community, observing the effects that new updates have is only the first step. It then continues with seeing how content creators feel about it, how they openly talk about it, and how all of that affects the general community perception. When popular streamers like Tim the Tapman left Overwatch, it felt like the game was in a miserable spot because people felt validated in their complaints about Overwatch going down the drain. Even when, realistically, most of the casual players who never interact with the game outside of actually playing their matches probably really did not care about it. A lot of things that we are outraged about don't matter to the bulk of the players who never go out of their way to share their opinion. That's how companies like EA are still successful. The core gaming community is labeling them as the devil, but most consumers out there don't care or even don't see any of that outrage because all they are interested in is buying the next FIFA. Those players will engage with the product as long as it interests them, and leave it if it stops doing so. And all of that happens completely disregarding any praise and or outrage that you can see on social media. Now granted, this video seems to be more about my personal interest in community management than the actual problem of queue times increasing, so let's get back on track here. What's the takeaway? If a content creator is trying to entertain a live audience, but they spent more time sitting in queue than actually playing the game, then they will try to find a workaround for that problem. We are already starting to see a rise in unranked to GM challenges because they are tired of spending so much time in queue, which in turn is going to normalize the idea of account sharing, account trading, and smurfing being okay. Like any of these things were not already bad enough as is. Reality is that this feels like a natural consequence to the implementation of role queue. The demands that many players make are simply impossible to meet. You cannot be part of the top 1% of players, insist on playing the most popular role, demand to never see anyone lower than you in your matches, and also get short queue times. But at the end of the day, content creators are trying to create content. If this is the direction that Blizzard wants to take the game, then they have to try to adapt and overcome. Some of them have started playing other games while queuing, some of them watch videos while in queue, and others again try to lower their queue times by smurfing. When it comes to my personal opinion, if they want lower queue times, they should accept that they cannot always have lobbies that are made exclusively of Grandmaster players. In Apex Legends, Diamond rank players are tossed in the same lobbies as Apex Predators for that very reason. There are just not enough of them out there. Then again, I stopped playing ranked in that game because, as it turns out, trying to win against actual pro teams and streamers is more difficult than I initially anticipated. So maybe that is not a great idea after all. There are definitely things Blizzard could and probably should do to improve the experience though. People literally playing other games while trying to queue for a match is undeniably a problem. The least they can do is allow players to go into the practice range while in queue, and while they're at it, maybe try to improve on the range in general. It would also be cool if we were able to host custom games while queuing, so we can do things like Lucio surfing or any variety of workshop modes that can be played in solo and don't suffer from you getting yeeted out of it to pop the rank queue. However, sometimes we just have to accept that we can't make everyone happy. Some of us love role queue and others hate it, and sometimes again you have to handle consequences that are very difficult to predict. But I guess everything is left to interpretation at the end of the day. As bad as all these things sound when I lay them out like this, it's very possible that it does not end up having a huge impact on the community at all. So at this point, we just have to wait and see what happens when role queue finally gets out of beta. Anyway, that's it for today's discussion on the queue time problem. I want to thank everybody so much for watching, and if you want to join in on the discussion, obviously feel free to do so down in the comment section below. Do you think the increase in queue time is a big deal, or does it not matter to you at all? I'm curious to find out what you guys think about this. But until then, thanks again for watching, drop me a like on your way out if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and I hope to see you guys next time.